Samasati color light therapy is the creation of Nishant Matthews, and Samasati were the last words of Buddha when his students asked him, "Can you give us one more message before you go?" And the only thing he said was Samasati. And Samasati means remember the truth of who you really are. And these are just simple words, but for me they give a very good short description of what Samasati color light therapy is about. And to be short, what Samasati color light therapy is about, it is about a dialogue with the body, mind, soul system, using light as its language. Yes. And as I work with this way, as I work in this way, let's say that, for instance, orange is a color which gives you a lot of joy and pleasure. I've seen many times that working with orange somewhere in the aura field, yes, may invoke a totally different reaction. It could be there's something stored there, a trauma or something emotional, and I need orange on that spot to get it moving. If I put it there, it won't move. It needs exactly light there. Yes? And that is what Samasati color light therapy is about. It is to interact with the body and to listen. If we listen to the body, it will talk. Yes? And this is a very intuitive way of working, and it doesn't require all sorts of technicalities, but it is a very strong way of working. And it's based on a simple thing, and I will explain that a bit further on. The system, the body-mind-soul system, knows what it needs. It's very intelligent. I will explain. Yes. And the other thing is, another simple thing, light gives the body back the resources it lost. And when you give it back the resources, it will know what to do. Yes. And so this is another way of looking at it. And I found it very rewarding to work this way. Can do it this way. Yeah, and who am I? I must say that since a number of years I don't really know. I used to know it, but when I started working with light, I lost track. Yes, and I'm very happy with that. And I am basically an IT person until about 6 years ago. And with 26 years of developing my analytical mind, you know, as an IT person, you're facing many problems, and the big challenge is to skip all the other causes, but go to the root cause and find where it is. So in all these years, I developed my analytical mind to go from top to bottom and from bottom to top, and just to cut the crap. Yes? And somewhere in the 90s, something in me wanted something else, and I started to work with energy. And I've done a rebalancing training, which is 3 years of body work with all sorts of techniques and psychology, part of it. And that has given me the ability to connect to myself. And because before that I couldn't. Well, sometimes I could, but this really woke it up. So connecting to myself. And for me it's quite simple. If I work with a person, if I cannot connect to myself, how the hell can I connect to my client? Yes? So this is a very important step in the way I work. Yeah? And I'm a light therapist since only 6 years. I always say this life, because I started to remember things. I don't know where they came from. And the light just touched my inner light, so it started to shine, and I got into trouble because my analytical mind said no, or no. It doubted what I sensed, what I saw, what I felt. So that put me on a quest. I'll tell you a bit about it. But today I'm a mixture of all of the above, and I feel a strong urge to understand life and the role of light in it. And I want to improve my skills as a light therapist. And one of the other things that's a deep need in me is to share what I know. Yes. And I sometimes think that doing the things that I've done, and nothing goes without reason, I think that I have maybe the capability to translate the untouchable and see if I can make it understandable. So can I bring it down to the level that I can explain it to other people? Yes. So that is one of my quests, you could say. To be short, introduction to light therapy 6 years ago, Nishan Matthews. Feeling of coming home. Starting to remember things. Yes, could tell whole stories about that, but no time for that. I explored the field of light, courses, internet, books, articles. One of the books, Jacob, was one of the first I read, Light Medicine of the Future. It blew my mind. Yeah. Working with crystals. There's something with them that has to do with light. And I found out that crystal is a Greek word and it means frozen light. Yes.
He's under your pillow.
Yes, there is a crystal under my pillow, always. Yes. I explored the world of geometry because I knew something was there too, and there's a way that geometry helps energy to turn into form, into matter. And I wanted to understand. I still don't, and I will never. I think I never will. But there is a need. My mind wants to know. Yes. I explored the field of other electromagnetic therapies, sound, piezo, microcurrents. And for me, the core of it was to better understand light as an electromagnetic modality. Yes. How the hell does it work? Why does it work? And exploring the world of Chinese medicine and some Ayurvedic medicine. Also, again, to better understand light as an energetic modality. And Chinese medicine is really great. It's really great. If you read the old texts of from China, the wisdom is in there. You know? I read a few weeks ago, and I knew it, but it really was so clear. In an old text it said, emotions, passions, and longings are things we don't have to learn. They come with our deepest nature. And I immediately had to think, what we learn is to suppress them. Yes? And that puts us into a lot of bad things, you could say. Energy stops, energy blocks, and things like that. I did a training, basic medical knowledge. How can I harvest on the vast field of allopathic knowledge to better understand the physical processings of the body? Yes. And can you imagine, there was a few doctors teaching us, and they would talk about child with diabetes, and I would ask one question, but do we know why one child has it and the other one hasn't? And that's a question they never ask themselves. But I want to know. What happened that a child develops diabetes? Yes. They just see what happens and they start to react on that. Yes. That's the way it is. Sorry. And of course, exploring quantum physics and how photons fit in. Light as magnetoelectric modality. Is that different than electromagnetic? Yes, it is. It's about time and space. Yes. Cannot go into that right now, but let's say that it adds something. Exploring the world of brainwaves, induction therapies, and sensora. Because, well, we are the only one and the first one in Europe to have a sensora, and it's a joy to be in there because, well, I think it helps me remember. Yes? And as I told you yesterday, the sensora enables me to explore who I am in the deep dungeons of my soul. Yes. So it's a big invitation. It's an invitation to me, but also to the people who are in there, just to experience who you are. Yeah. And I've started treating people 5-6 years ago, and I do that for, well, let's say 20 hours a week. And I teach, and I do that about 12-13 weekends a year. Yes, I teach color light therapy. And yeah, my mind has a need to explore and to see things and to prove things. And I don't have a laboratory, so my practice facility is my laboratory. And each client is an opportunity to learn. This really gives something to me. So I'm not just there to do away with the problem, but there's something more there, which keeps it to me very interesting. Yes. Okay, for today some remarks. Limited time frame, we only have 15 minutes, and cannot go very deep into the ins and outs of tissue regeneration. And the other thing is, for me, finding out about regeneration was a journey. And I've chosen to, in the presentation, to show a bit of this journey, because it's some sort of a natural way to fall from the next discovery into the following one. Yes. So it was more or less the unfolding of a theory, and when I did the introduction to light, which Nishan did beautifully, yes, there were a few things that really struck my mind, and I never thought of it that way. But one of which was, how can a fetus turn into one cell into 50 trillion cells in just a few months of time? How is it possible? The scientists will say it's DNA. And if you ask, how does DNA know? They will say it's RNA. And if you ask, how does RNA know? They don't know. There's something there that guides it. Yes. And another story is how the body regenerates a broken bone. For me, the fascinating question was, how do the cells know what they have to become? How does this cell know that it has to be a piece of bone instead of a blood vein? How does it know it has to become a little hair? How does it know? And how does it know it has to stop when it's finished? How does it know? Yeah? So I started wondering, and my fascination drove me to do further fact-finding to understand how this all works. And the only thing that I got was more fascination. Life is a miracle. Yes? Because if you look at it, how every day in our body we have 50 trillion cells. How can they work in synchronicity? How is it possible? I sometimes compare it to the Earth. We have 5 billion people living on Earth. If you compare each cell to some person living on Earth, you would need 10,000 Earths to get the picture. It's a huge community of interacting pieces of consciousness. Yes, incredible. And I hit upon, of course, who's in light, the story of Fritz Albert Popp and his biocommunication, how light guides all this. What's the role of light in there? Yes. And another thing was, I read it somewhere and I thought, wow, each individual cell has an average of about 100,000 reactions, internal actions per second. So if you start to try to imagine what goes on in your body, we cannot. We shouldn't even try. Yes. And another miracle is how the body produces 7 million new cells every second and gets rid of 7 million cells. Yeah. It is an incredibly sophisticated mechanism. It's a miracle. And you know, the good thing is, I thought, well, it's a good thing that we don't have to think about this, that we don't have to regulate all this, because we couldn't. It's too big, too much happening there. So, there is something in there that deals with this, that guides it for us, fortunately. And when I studied a lot of things and I hit upon, in the Chinese medicine corner, well, the story of Jing and the miracle meridians. And when we incarnate as, or let's say when we start as a cell, then something energetic happens. And the miracle meridians show up early in life, in the first few days. And the miracle meridians create a setting, a construction plan, or whatever you want to call it, that guides us, that guides the process of growing. And I'm not sure if this is true. I cannot prove it. Nobody can prove it. But I've reason to believe that Jing and the miracle meridians have an important role in there. Yes. And good thing is that they don't stop. They are with us for the rest of our lives. And for us who don't know, you have the, let's say, the normal meridians. They act on a certain level, and they guide qi, and they guide qian, which is the more immaterial part of qi. Let's call it mind or soul. Yes. But the miracle meridians are really at the basis. They guide us through life. You know, and there is cycles in the miracle meridians in women of 7 years and in men of 8 years, which guide us through things like puberty and growing new teeth and other things, menopause. Yes. So it has a very, let's say, important influence on our lives. And for me, the core of the story is, as I told you in the beginning, trust your body, because it knows. It knows. And for me, it's like this: if we put pills into a body to regulate this incredible mechanism, then I understand that on another place something falls over. The side effects of our drugs. Yes. Because this is too complex and too beautiful a machine to be able to be regulated by something simple like drugs. Yes. And as Nishant always say, let the light do the heavy lifting. Yes. So, and this is in the Samasati way of working very important, because I, as a therapist, the only thing I do is I bring light. Yes? And by bringing light, the body takes what it needs and does what it is very good at, regulating all the mechanisms in the body. Yeah? So light restores the resources of the body, so the body can do what it needs to do. Yeah? And one of the other steps I made was I read this book. Who of you read it or saw it? Yeah, there's a couple of them. And because you can imagine, if you want to know what the miracle is about, then this is a book that tells a story. And the story for me is the things that Robert Becker did in the 60s and 70s and 80s is to experiment with the regeneration of limbs, first in salamanders and after that in mammals. Because the question he had is, how the hell can a salamander regrow a limb? How does it do that? Yes. And if you want to know, I invite you to read the book. It's a fantastic book. And he also explained that a mammal has a different nervous system than a salamander, so for a mammal it will be harder to regenerate. But he did it. Yes. So, and I always wonder, what happened? And he talks about the currents of injury. And this is a very crucial thing, because currents of injury indicate, let's say, to the yin and the miracle meridians, or the guiding system, or whatever you want to call it, that something is going on there, and then it needs to be repaired or regenerated. Yes? Something needs to be done there. So it's some sort of a red flag for the body. You need to do something there. Yeah? And he also talks about the first and second control system. Yes? And I gave this a lot of thinking back then. And I don't know which one came first and which one was second, but he talks about two control systems. And for me that fits in with the meridians and the miracle meridians. Yes? And then also a lot of things that he talks about, I can project it into this setting of miracle meridians and meridians. And then it starts to make more sense. So, Robert Becker talks about current of injury as negative or positive. And for me, I translated it into the negative current of injury mobilizes Jing and the miracle meridians. And let's call it the regeneration field. This is a highly intelligent field that is also used during the gestation period in the womb to build the fetus into a full human being. There is one important thing to be added to that. It needs original cells to renew the tissue. And another word for original cells is stem cells. Yes. If you compare it to a positive current of injury, the positive current of injury activates the meridians and, let's say, activates the repair field. This is a field which is not so intelligent, and it duplicates local cells to repair the tissue. It's a totally different setup. And the simple thing that Becker found out is that a salamander will generate a negative current of injury. And let's say that in a human, when we cut off a finger and we go to the doctor and he closes the wound, it generates a positive current of injury. Yeah? There have been many cases of little children that have lost a leg or whatever, or a finger. Yes. Well, not many cases, but I've heard of a few, that if nothing is done, something starts to regenerate. Yeah. There's cases of children with cut off fingertips that regenerated. Yeah. And then at the same time I was doing this, I had some clients with cancer. Yes. And I treated them with light. And for some of them it was successful and not for others. And for me the most intriguing question was, what made the difference? Yes. And I was in the middle of exploring all this and finding out about the miracle meridians and Jing. And so, yeah, it really fitted in my process. So I asked myself, because that was the explanation I could dream up, what if the body in the case of cancer only activates the repair system by generating a positive current of injury and not the regeneration system? Could this be true? And, you know, only a few weeks ago I found out, yes, that, don't know what it was, somewhere on the internet, that on a site it was explained that a cancer cell at the outside acts like a normal cell. So the rest of the body is not alarmed by what's going on there. Yes? So yes, the body doesn't see the urgency of it. So if the body generates only a positive current of injury, then the impact would be that the body tries to repair the damage done with local degenerated cells. And it means that no matter how many cells are made, the functioning of the tissue is not improved, because the new cells are degenerated. The current of injury is not switched off. The need for repair is still there. So the body keeps duplicating local faulty cells. And as a result, we have local excessive tissue, a tumor. And there's many other things about cancer, like its glucose consumption, which is about 15 to 20 times higher than of a normal cell. So if the tumor grows, yes, you will lose other resources. Yeah. So there I was. I thought, okay, can I change the polarity of the signal, the current of injury, from positive to negative? Can I alarm the body that something is going on there? And what will it do to the excessive tissue? And this is crucial. For instance, if someone has a big tumor, I'm treating a person with a big tumor right now, which is pressing his veins. One of the most important things is that the tumor reduces size. So if I just turn cancer cells into normal cells, then nothing will be reduced. Yes, so it's important. And for me, changing the polarity of the signal, has someone else tried something similar other than Robert Becker, because he tried it. And I found William Coley. He is a surgeon from the US, but this happened a long time ago. He was a bone surgeon and a cancer researcher, and he started to use something we call the Coley fluid to inject cancer patients in 1893. Wow. Yes? You know, and he came upon this because he had a patient with lung cancer who developed erysipelas, which is an infection of the skin in the lung area. And what happened to this person, he didn't only cure of the erysipelas, but also of the lung cancer. So William Coley started to think, what happened here? Yes? So what he did after that, he made the Coley fluid, Coley's toxins also called, that consisted of killed bacteria which were injected during a number of consecutive days in the area of the tumor. So what he did without knowing, he tried to change the signal from positive to negative. Yes? And this cured many cases of cancer. I got some figures from the official, US National Cancer Institute. They researched it in 1999. Don't know if you can see it, kidney cancer. The official treatment, 23% survival rate after 10 years. And you know, the Coley fluid group, it was 33%. Yes. Ovarian cancer, it was 29%. The Coley fluid group, 55%. And sarcoma, 38% regular treatment, 50% in the Coley fluid group. Yes?
How large are subjects for the Coley group?
Sorry?
How many subjects were in the Coley group?
I don't know, but I know that in the years he did this, he treated many clients. So it's probably somewhere on the internet, you can find it, but because, well, the US National Cancer Institute also is very, well, I think they went deep, so not just 2 or 3 persons, but probably quite a lot more. it has been in use for quite some years, and there is, what I hear is that people think of picking it up again because of the success rate is higher. Yeah. So, and what did the allopathic medicine think about Coley's therapy? They think that the killed bacteria trigger the immune system to produce more white blood cells, which raises the temperature. Yes. And the white blood cells attack the infected local cells and the cancer cells in the area. And then the tumor resolves. That is one way of looking at it. Robert Becker said, the Coley fluid makes the body raise the urgency. Yes? The body changes the current of injury from plus to minus. And the faulty cells of the tumor are replaced by healthy cells. Or in my words, repair with only degenerated local cells is replaced by regeneration with original or stem cells. But then the question is that I ask myself, can color light change the polarity of the signal? Yes, it can. The color red creates a positive charged field and triggers the repair field. The color green creates a negative charged area and triggers the regeneration field. But there is a big challenge here. How long must I shine the green light? Because I can evoke the regeneration field, but can I invite the body to maintain it? What happens if I take away my green light? Does the body switch back to the positive current of injury? Yes. And I'm in the middle of this, testing that and see if we can invite the body to pick up that signal. Yes.
You made some statements about red creating a triggering repair field and green a regenerative field. How do you know that? Where does that come from?
Yeah, this is, let's say that, okay, you know that, like Robert Becker, sorry. This is a part where my mind obstructed heavily. And you know why? Because this is something that I dreamed of. Yeah? I remembered. And I've explained some persons in the audience about it, but one night I had a dream which showed me this. And I just thought, well, can it be true? Yeah. So yeah, if you ask me, how do you know? That's the way, but my mind obstructs because my mind says, you need to prove this.
No, I think that's a good reason.
Okay. Yeah.
I asked for a very important reason. I don't think there's anything more accurate than our direct experience. But often we make statements and we bullshit them with science that we don't understand.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your answer.
Okay. Yeah. So what I did so far for little tumors, skin cancers, I applied gray and green, because this is what the dream was about, how to treat tumors with gray and green. Yes. And the gray comes in the part that we need to turn cells into stem cells. And it is about the fibroblast cells and the red blood cells. Yeah. So even when we get older and we don't have an endless supply of stem cells, there is something we can do. Yes. And as I told you, I'm in the middle of it, treating a person with a giant tumor on his hip, and he's been to hospital, and the only thing they can do for him, they can radiate, but he doesn't want that. Chemotherapy is impossible. They cannot take out the tumor because it's into the bone tissue and into the veins. So the only thing they can do is amputate the total hip and leg. That's the only thing they can do. So with this story he came to me, and I told him, okay, let's see what happens. And you know, the thing is, I've treated him now for 3 times, and the pain is getting less, which means that the tumor is shrinking a bit. Yes. So, but here's a few challenges, and I'll talk about that later. Yeah. And in general, curing a malignant tumor needs following a current of injury with enough urgency to evoke the regeneration system. And the second thing is enough stem cells to replace the local cells. And yes, it all needs further testing.
So, you're saying we use the gray to produce more stem cells, and we use the green to evoke the regeneration system?
Yeah.
Okay. And how does the gray produce stem cells?
I think it's further down. I like to think of it in this way, that
Undifferentiated.
yes, each specialized cell has collapsed a number of DNA strings which it doesn't use, but they are in the cell. And what the gray does, it just does away with the collapse. So the DNA just unfolds again. Yes.
Okay. It
Very.
unfolds again.
There's something called the Society of Photobiology, and they're reporting about over 100 studies on using red to stimulate stem cell growth in local tissue.
Red.
It's a great source for you to
Okay.
to look at.
Yes. I'll come back to you about that. Yeah.
Yeah, can you say something more about what exactly is gray like? What does it look like?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it has no. Yeah, I got the lens in my bag. Yes, and Alexander last year measured it, and it shows no frequency except for the light source behind it. Yes.
After spectra here, can show it.
Yes. Yeah. So there's nothing in there. No. Yes. There seems to be nothing in there.
No frequency.
Yes.
Absence of frequency.
Absence of frequency.
Vacuum.
Mandel calls it is gray the dawn of light.
Sorry.
Mandel calls gray the dawn of light.
Yeah. Yeah. That what I always say also is that I saw it yesterday also. You need darkness to be able to experience light, and gray is somewhere in the middle. Yes. Where are we? Went way back. Yes, here we are. Okay, so for your important evidence, is there evidence? So mid-2008, we met an opportunity to test part of this theory. And the part with it that we could test is using color light to trigger the regeneration field, because Brian indicated it yesterday, Mason was prematurely born in Australia with 2 necrotic fingertips. Don't know if you can see it, but not too good at pictures. And the beamer is not too good. Here you can quite clearly see that the index finger, almost the entire top, just above the lid, is necrotic, and the thumb, just the top part, is necrotic. And important is that Mason was already a few weeks old, and there was no spontaneous regeneration. It just was like this for a few weeks, and the doctors who treated Mason, knew only one thing, and that's to amputate it, cut it off. Yes? And his mother came to Simon, and Simon had just 3 months before received basic training, Samasati color light therapy, and so he called us and said, what do I do? And I tell you what I told him. I said, talk to the baby. Yes? And he did with his pendulum. He used it to get the color the baby needed, and the first color it said it was green. Yes? So he started to treat the baby with green, and he pendled every time, and during the treatment the baby asked for other colors. So at a certain point in time the regeneration field was active, and I've read in Becker's book that in a few days' time you get the formation of the blastema, which is a bunch of cells, and once it's there then the system is active. So then you don't have to use green anymore. Yes? But it takes a few days. Yes? But in this little baby it went quite quickly. And the thing is, a few weeks later, and this is, I thought it was the photo of a few weeks later. Oh, there it is. You can see the thumb has fully regenerated. Index finger has regenerated for 85%, because this is not the last picture and not the best picture. But we've seen, Brian also has seen him, baby Mason, when we were there in February, and there is just a little bit of the top is not fully regenerated, and you can see where the body started to regenerate. There's some sort of a, you can see where it started. There's a little difference there. Yes, Denise.
How long did he use the green light, and was it only on his fingers?
It was in the area of his fingers, and it was only a short time.
So like a few minutes?
Yes.
20 minutes?
No, it was less than 20 minutes, a few minutes.
Once a day?
Sorry?
Once a day?
He came a few times, but I don't know exactly how many times he came.
Okay. What he did was every day for a few days, and then Simon would say, shall I, are you going to come tomorrow? No. The day after tomorrow? Yes.
Okay, he would use his pendulum to see. Yeah. Yeah.
When, again, you should have treatment. And it went for every second day, come next week or
Yeah, so this is really an example of how the Samasati approach works. Talk to the body. The body knows. So can you tap into that? Yes. Yeah. And I always say this is a miracle, of course, in the eyes of everybody. But if you understand the mechanism of regeneration of media, the thing is quite simple. If this system works during the gestation period, why doesn't it work just after it? Yes? It's still there. It just needs this, a flag.
The trigger.
A trigger. And we put the flag there, and choof, there the body goes.
Where is the star?
I use this more often, St. Augustine. There are no miracles, only unknown laws. Yes? And if you know the law, the miracle is gone. But okay. What happened in Mason's case, while he grew in the womb, yin and the miracle meridians were very active, as in all babies. Yes? For whatever reason, 2 fingertips became necrotic during this period. Don't know why, we don't know what happened, but that's the way it came out. By shining green light on the area of the fingertips, yin and the miracle meridians were activated, were flagged to show up. That's what they did. And in babies have plenty of stem cells, so there was no need to make them. The body just did it himself. And guided by the regeneration field, the body started to grow new fingertips. The necrotic tissue just fell off. Yes. So we could observe the miracle, because that's what it is. Then there is challenges, and they come from my analytical mind, the challenges. Yes? The biggest challenge is to be able to see what happens in the tissue. What happens if I shine grey light on that? Yes? Can I check that? Can I see it? Yeah? If I treat skin cancer with grey and green, are all the cancer cells gone in the areas treated with grey and green? Does it come back? The thing is, in Holland, skin cancer is not such a common thing. And I don't put out advertisement that I want people with skin. So it is just, let's say, what shows up in my practice facility that I use. And I've treated 5 or 6 of them with little skin cancers. And that goes away nicely. It needs 3 treatments with an interval of a week. Not much longer, not much shorter. Yes.
With both grey and green?
With both grey and green. And then let's say the tissue becomes thicker and it comes to the surface. The cells come to the surface, and you can scratch them off after the 3rd time. Yes. The persons I've treated, I've not seen it return, but I don't know if all cancer cells are gone in that little area. I don't know. Yeah, and I would like to know. And this is another challenge. As I told you, I'm currently working with that. Can we trigger the body to maintain the increased urgency so it can repair itself? Will the signal go away if I switch off my green light, or will it remain? The test I did with the person with the big tumor here, I don't know if you know them, I found on the internet plasters called Accustat, and they generate, if you open them and put them on the body, for 48 hours a negative current. Sorry?
What did you say?
Accustat.
S-T-A-T?
S-T-A-T. Yes? And it is for pain, for sports injuries. Yes? So I got a number of them and I gave them, he took them home, because I wanted to make sure that this regeneration field was still on. Yes?
They trigger the regeneration field?
Well, it creates a negative current. So it will, let's say, trigger the regeneration field. Brian.
I had a appendix out in the country of Colombia. I was way up in the mountains working with a very advanced doctor. And after surgery, there's a fair amount of pain. He put me on a magnetic bed. He switched the polarity and the pain shifted. Gone. All the pain was certainly gone. Pain would come back. Next day, I'd get on the bed. So it was like rocking the body back and forth, probably positive and negative. Maybe that entrains after a while.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
had no
I know.
pain within like 2 days of walking around.
Yeah, I know the body will take over at a certain point, but I don't know yet how long I must use green before it does so. Yes, so that is the thing still going on. Yeah.
What happened with the patches with him?
The patches?
When you put the Accustat stat?
Yeah, well, I saw him just before going here, and he told me that the pain has diminished further, and he says the area feels like having skied for 3 days. So I know it's good because it means that there is waste material developing there, so it needs to get out. Yes, so probably his tumor is shrinking, and this week he is going to other hospital for another research, second opinion. Yes, and so he said, well, I wonder if we can see if the tumor has shrunk. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But this is exactly the point where I am. The point is that it is, let's say that for my mind it's not proven yet. Yeah, but okay. So let's say that this is not a challenge, but it is, as I see it, our original construction plan is always available. Yes, but as we age, we run out of building material. Yes. So this is basically what I wanted to share with you today. Yes, and the work will continue. And yeah, what I would like if other persons in the world would like to join in on this, because let's say that the more people work with this, the more we see what happens.
And
Phyllis.
you have your little kit with you.
Yeah.
We're going to have 4 hours in Coley, and maybe under one of the umbrellas on the platform there, you could, if you were willing, and somebody really wanted to understand his filters better, would you be willing to just give more information?
Yeah.
Because we have that time then.
Yeah.
We're short now. We need to have a break, a very short break.